Good afternoon, and welcome to the Wednesday afternoon conference call with Trusts Unlimited. This is Jim George speaking. I'm the non-attorney spokesman and facilitator for Trusts Unlimited, and I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this call, particularly those of you calling in for the first time and those over the next 24 to 48 hours that will be listening to our replay. We have a substantial number of people that do listen to the replay, and makes perfect sense since we do this in the middle of the day and people have different schedules, so the replay has been very helpful. We have a standard format. We like to move quickly. We like to bottom line the information for you. We know you're busy people and you have other things to do. We spend a few minutes talking about the revaluation of the dinar and these other currencies, a few minutes talking about the program we've put in place to assist you, and then we go to a Q&A. So let's go ahead and get started and talk a little bit about the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar, which we continue to believe is the base currency for these other currencies. First, by way of disclaimer, Trusts Unlimited is not the purveyor of the dinar and these other currencies. We're not advocating the sale or purchase of these currencies. But as substantial currency holders ourselves, we're sharing with you the information that we think is relevant. The first issue would be the window for the reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar. I was very hopeful at the beginning of the year that we'd be looking at the reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar in the first quarter of this year. Now, I've got to differentiate the reinstitution from the revaluation. There still seems to be confusion there. The reinstitution of the currency means that in country, in Iraq, they will not be using reserve currencies for normal day-to-day activities, but they will be using exclusively their own currency. It'll be valued probably somewhere around the value of the dollar right now. But as always seems to be the case with Iraq, there always seems to be complications and things that drag the situation out. And I'm going to get into that in a little bit of detail. Suffice to say that the reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar is still quite possible in the first quarter, but I'm not as hopeful as I was for the reasons that I'll be stating here in a moment. There's a lot going on in Iraq. On the plus side, the 2019 budget has been approved. There has been a tentative agreement between the Prime Minister Mahdi and the Parliament with regard to the ministerial cabinet. There's been some agreement that there would be appointment of interim ministers until Mahdi can present members to the Parliament that are acceptable to them. Most notably, Interior and Defense ministers are of extreme concern. Now, Germany, along with the United States and Britain, are committing substantial amount of investment dollars to Iraq, and that's a very good sign as well. On the minus side, the things contributing to the this continued postponement of the reinstitution of the currency once again have to do with continued Iranian influence, and I would actually say interference into Iraqi international affairs. As a matter of fact, the CBI had tried on two previous occasions in January to reinstitute their currency, but because of Iranian interference, the NSA in the United States held that off. It's extremely frustrating. The Iranians are just bad folks. I mean, there's no other way to say it, and they are hell-bent on involving themselves in the internal affairs of all Middle Eastern nations, which is why the United States has slapped the sanctions on them. The Iranian militias continue to run around in Iraq. Iraq is primarily Shias, although most of them are not radical Shias, but there are a component of radical Shias, and some of them are, of course, in government. And, of course, the Iranians are working as hard as they can to coerce Iraq to violate the U.S. sanctions, so that's what's creating the problem. One of the ways that Iran is able to do this is because there are still auctions of the dinar through some of the corrupt officials in Iraq. Basically, the deal is that there's an auction for the dinar, which is purchased with the U.S. dollar, and then Iraq turns around and uses the U.S. dollar to purchase natural gas from Iran. So that's the way of circumventing and violating the sanctions against Iran from the United States. Now, there are several ways this could be dealt with. I don't know that I agree with the way the United States is dealing with it. Basically, they're punishing Iraq. It seems to me that the way to deal with this is to help Iraq, assist them into the reinstitution of their currency. We certainly do not want them utilizing that currency to purchase Iranian natural gas, but they seem to be able to do so through the auctions. So by reinstituting their currency, Iraq would then have the ability to pay for the infrastructure rebuild that's necessary so that they do not have to rely on Iranian natural gas. But it's unfortunately a complicated situation, and the fly in the ointment continues to be Iran. The other issue is it looks as though Maliki will retain his position as vice president. It seems that the only way that the country is going to be able to proceed forward is to hold their nose and look the other way with regard to the corrupt officials that have really been the cause of all of the problems in Iraq going all the way back to 2003. The Iranians have also, as part of their threat to destabilize Iraq, said that they will issue and disseminate massive amounts of counterfeit dinar in the country, which will keep the Iraqi dinar at a very low rate. Now, this could be offset by the new currency that is extremely difficult to counterfeit. However, the average Iraqi probably wouldn't know the difference and frankly wouldn't care. If they could exchange whatever dinar is in their hand, whether it's the provisional currency or a counterfeit new currency, as long as they can exchange it for goods and services, they probably don't care. So, unfortunately, the delay at this point, in my opinion, has to do with the interference of Iran, and at some point something has to be done because Iran is the bully in the neighborhood, and at some point we all know you have to deal with the bully. And at some point the sanctions, if they can be circumvented, something else is going to have to be considered, and it's not a good situation. For those of us that are concerned about the revaluation, from that narrow perspective, this is extremely frustrating, but it is what it is. However, I still think that the reinstitution of the dinar is possible in the first quarter. The only problem with that would be, as I've stated on many occasions, the reinstitution and revaluation of the Iraqi dinar or any currency very late in a quarter creates exchange, tax, and investment problems for us as we straddle the new quarter. But if that were to occur, we could deal with that when that time comes. That's basically the information I have for today. I know it's a little bit frustrating, but again, we still have the possibility of the reinstitution of the dinar in the first quarter of this year. Now, for those of you that have not as yet gotten your affairs in order prior to this revaluation or may not know what that involves, Trusts Unlimited has put a turnkey program in place to assist you. It's a two-phased program. Phase 1 is pre-RV. Phase 2 is post-RV. Pre-RV involves the establishment of a pre-RV package of asset protection trusts and the assignment of your currencies on paper to that asset protection trust package. Phase 2 involves all of the products, services, and professional referrals that will be made available to you after the revaluation of the dinar and these other currencies. But let's start with Phase 1, which is the establishment of a pre-RV package of asset protection trusts, and again, the assignment of your currencies on paper to that trust package. Very simply, a trust is a legal instrument one can establish to hold, to manage, and to protect assets. Trust can fall into some basic categories. For example, a trust can be revocable or it can be irrevocable. In order to have the asset protection you are going to need and want, you are going to need to establish a package of irrevocable trusts, and that package must be established prior to the revaluation of the dinar and these other currencies for the following reasons. First, by establishing this trust package and assigning your currencies to that trust package, you will preserve your privacy and your anonymity. That's because assets held within an irrevocable trust are sealed, and the general public will have no knowledge of your net worth or your actual holdings. Second, by establishing this trust package, you'll be able to successfully avoid personal IRS scrutiny. If you're holding these currencies in direct title when they revalue, the IRS computers will most likely be spitting out an audit. And with the potential magnitude of this revaluation relative to your prior year's earnings, you're probably looking at a full-blown 6-year audit. Now, such an audit would be time-consuming, it would be frustrating, and frankly, it would probably cost you substantially more than the cost of our asset protection trust package. On the other hand, if your trust package is in place and your currencies are assigned to that trust package pre-RV, you have successfully transferred the taxable event of the revaluation from yourself personally to the trust. Now, this is important for a couple of reasons from a tax standpoint. First, there's less than a 10% chance of an IRS audit if this revaluation were to occur within the trust. But second, and most importantly, even if the IRS determines to audit your trust, they can't do a 6-year audit. Why? Because the only taxable event within the trust will be the revaluation itself. The third reason you'd want to establish this trust package is because included in it is a special gift subtrust that we have created. There are situations where you may not want to give individuals substantial amounts of currencies. Philanthropic gifting can always be done on a tax-preferred basis, either pre- or post-RV. But in order to avoid a substantial 40% federal gift tax, you're going to need to gift currencies prior to their revaluation. Now, if you're gifting to individuals that you have no problem giving them the currency to exchange for themselves or giving them the lump sum after you've negotiated the exchange, that can be accomplished outside of a trust with a standard gift letter. But again, if you're hesitant for any reason to give friends and family these USD lump sum post-RV, then you can gift to them through our specially established gift subtrust. By gifting through this subtrust, their currencies and their USD will also be protected along with yours. The language of this subtrust allows you to gift up to a certain amount of a currency or currencies, meaning that you can give the exact US dollar amount that you had in mind, irrespective of the exchange rate. But because you're gifting through the special gift subtrust that we've created, not only will their US dollars be protected along with yours, but you will be able to manage to invest and distribute the money to those individuals as you deem appropriate. The fourth reason you'd want to establish this pre-RV trust package is because it's been structured in such a way as to allow your estate to bypass the cost and delay of probate and the federal estate tax. I'll give you 2 quick scenarios. Scenario number 1, you purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. The day after that, those currencies revalue for $25 million. The day after that, you pass away, leaving your heirs an estate of $25 million. Now that estate must go through probate, a process that ordinarily can take anywhere from 6 to 18 months. But probate is a public disclosure process, meaning that the general public will be aware of the size of your estate, who your heirs are, and how much they each stand to inherit. So if anyone feels they have a legitimate claim against you, your estate, or your heirs, they can simply file that claim with a probate court. And that could tie the estate up for years, and in some cases even decades. And your heirs will have either limited access or no access at all to their respective inheritance until the probate process is completed. Then there's something called the federal estate tax. This is the tax that the federal government will assess in order for that estate to be transferred to heirs. Under current law, approximately $10 million of that $25 million estate would bypass any federal estate tax, but the balance could be taxed as much as 55%. Scenario number 2, you purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. The day after that, you assign those currencies on paper to our asset protection trust package. The day after that, those currencies revalue for $25 million. The day after that, you pass away, leaving your heirs an estate of $25 million, but this time in our asset protection trust package. As a result, there will be no probate. There will be no public disclosure of your estate. Your heirs will have immediate access to their respective inheritance, and the federal estate tax will be zero, saving your heirs as much as 55% of their inheritance. The fifth reason you'd want to establish this pre-RV asset protection trust package is for some very specific asset protection benefits. One pre-RV, one post-RV. Pre-RV, this trust package will allow you to circumvent something called the Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act. What does that mean? Under our system of civil procedure, you can only be sued for what you own in direct title or the value of property at the time you transfer it out of title to an entity like our trust package. So let's take the previous example from before. You purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. You transfer those currencies to our trust on paper. They subsequently revalue for $25 million. You begin to live a lifestyle more reflective of your newfound wealth, and a couple of years down the road, someone sees that you're living rather comfortably and decides, for whatever reason, that they're going to sue you. Well, this prospective plaintiff has a couple of problems. First, he or she better have a very strong case and very deep pockets, because this trust is structured in such a way as to make it extremely expensive and extremely time-consuming to pursue civil litigation. But second, and most importantly, once the prospective plaintiff learns that pursuant to the Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act, the only thing they could ever win by way of a civil award would be the pre-RV value of $5,000, the value of the property at the time you transferred it to the trust, and out of direct title, and none of the post-RV value of $25 million, there will be no lawsuit. Post-RV, there's a benefit I like to refer to as limited liability stop-loss. This is protection from future bad acts after you have acquired this wealth. And this protection is accomplished through a legal strategy called segregation of assets. And this is how it would work. Again, we'll use the same example. You purchased 5 million dinar for $5,000, transfer the currencies to our trust. They subsequently revalue for $25 million. Now that you have $25 million in trust, you decide to make some purchases. So you purchase a larger primary residence, a vacation home, perhaps a half a dozen rental properties for tax write-off and additional cash flow, a couple of cars, a boat, and let's say an RV. But as you purchase these items, you place each of them in their own separate subtrust to be managed by your master trust. That's the trust that held your pre-RV currencies through assignment and then would hold financial assets like bank accounts and investment accounts after the revaluation. Now, why is this strategy important? That is from an asset protection standpoint. Well, let's say one day you're driving one of your new cars, you have an accident, the accident is clearly your fault, and tragically someone is seriously injured or even killed. Well, the family of the victim is going to want to sue you. But remember, civil suits are about monetary awards, and you don't legally own anything. So they'd be left to sue the owner of the car that you were driving. Well, who owns that car? One of your subtrusts, of which you are merely the beneficiary. And what's in that subtrust? Merely that one car and the car insurance policy. In that scenario, the car insurance carrier will negotiate an out-of-court settlement with the victim's family. You will not be involved in those rather unpleasant negotiations. The car insurance carrier will repair or replace your car, making you whole. And this is important. All of your other assets are safely protected in other sub-trusts. Now, why are those assets protected? Because under the law, those separate sub-trusts are separate legal entities, and the plaintiffs would have no standing to pursue a separate legal entity. Now, these benefits are lost to you if you do not establish your package of asset protection trusts prior to the revaluation of the dinar and these other currencies. Now, there is one other benefit, and it's this. If you are, in fact, the holder of one of our pre-RV asset protection trust packages, then you will be eligible to participate in Phase 2, post-RV, all of the products, services, and professional referrals that will be made available to you after the revaluation of these currencies. Now, I'll just make mention of one here today. Trusts Unlimited will be sponsoring a post-RV seminar to be held in Disney World, Florida, approximately 30 days after the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar. Present at that seminar will, of course, be the staff of Trusts Unlimited to assist you with the management and funding of your trust packages post-RV. In addition, many of our clients have expressed desires to establish scholarship funds, foundational trusts, special needs trusts, charitable remainder trusts, and even the more complicated 501c3 nonprofit and offshore trusts. And the proper way to fund those entities is by the transfer of funds directly from your pre-RV asset protection trust package to those newly established post-RV entities. We'll also have our tax specialists there. Our offshore specialists will show you that by establishing offshore title of certain assets, you can substantially reduce and in some cases eliminate taxes on the reinvestment of the net proceeds from the revaluation itself. We'll also have our independent fee-based wealth managers there as well. It's going to be critical for you to reposition assets after the revaluation for a number of reasons. First, we know statistically that 95% of all windfalls, however large and from whatever source, are lost within 3 to 5 years due to mismanagement, inexperience, and fraud. We also know that under the new G20 bank bail-in provisions, the failure of banks in the future will no longer be made whole through the general taxing authority over the respective governments, but first and foremost by the confiscation of funds at the accounts at those banks. So you're going to want to get money out of the banks and it work in other markets as quickly as possible. And third, the general global shift from fiat-based to Basel III compliant commodity-based currencies in and of itself is going to create extremely volatile financial markets, and so you're going to want to get a substantial amount of your net worth in tangible assets. Now, our trust package is initially a package of 10 trusts consisting of one master trust that will, again, hold your assigned pre-RV currencies, and then post-RV hold financial assets like bank accounts and investment accounts. One optional gift subtrust if you wished to gift currencies to family and friends pre-RV and then manage the money post-RV, which subtrust can be converted at any time to a standard subtrust, and then 8 additional standard subtrusts that will hold physical assets like homes, cars, boats, etc. Now, this was the simplification of a rather sophisticated trust package that we've utilized in the past for our more affluent clients, a package that had an initial cost of anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000. But a few years back when we decided to work with Denarians, we knew that that price tag was going to be unaffordable for many. So by restructuring that trust package pre-RV, we've been able to reduce the cost to $3,000. Now, there are several ways you can pay for that. If you pay us up front, we'll discount the price further to $2,500, saving you an additional $500. If that's not possible, we do have a deferred payment arrangement. You'd make an initial payment of $525, which sum would basically offset our out-of-pocket costs just to produce and deliver your trust documents. The balance of the $3,000 would then be paid in $100 monthly installments. We will charge no interest. The only proviso is once the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar occurs, any unpaid balance would need to be paid within 30 days. So with this approach, anyone that has currencies and understands the need for establishing their trust package prior to the revaluation should be in a position to afford to do so. One other suggestion, we do accept credit cards. Pay us up front with a credit card. Not only will you get the $500 discount, but the minimum payment on your credit card would be substantially less than the $100 a month you'd be paying under our deferred payment arrangement. But we will work with you in whatever method works best for you. Our objective is to help you get your affairs in order for all of the reasons that we've stated on this call. We're going to go to the Q&A in just a moment, but before we do, and for the benefit of our newer callers, I'd like to tell you just a little bit about Trusts Unlimited and why you may want to seriously consider allowing us to assist you. Our trust package was authored by our attorney, Robert Bly. He's been a practicing attorney for over 40 years, specializing in the areas of estate planning, asset protection, and offshore planning. I myself hold degrees in political science, macroeconomics, and finance. I've worked in these areas for over 38 years, and I, along with my clients, were personally involved in the reinstatement of the Kuwaiti dinar in the early 90s. So between the two of us, Robert Bly and I have over 78 years' experience working precisely in these areas, and I frankly know of no firm that can make that claim. Now, Bob and I have been working together for a decade in the areas of estate planning, asset protection, and offshore planning, and it has been disheartening from time to time to see people walk away from sound estate planning and trust creation because of the mistaken belief that by doing so, they have somehow lost control of their assets and their affairs. In point of fact, it's just the reverse. Under our system of civil procedure, it's when you hold assets in direct title that you can lose control of them. And invariably, it's at precisely those times in life that you need and want control. If you've lived for any length of time, you've either experienced in your own life things like unexpected divorce, permanent incapacitation, the onset of dementia, premature death, and prolonged and complicated probate processes. Then there are investment losses, business losses, and even bankruptcies. The number 2 loss of wealth now in the aggregate, courtesy of the information age, is identity theft. But the number 1 loss of personal wealth remains confiscation through civil litigation. Anything you own in direct title can be taken from you. And the greater your net worth, the greater the likelihood that someone someday for some reason is going to want to sue you. So in point of fact, the only way that you can manage, protect, and control everything at all times and in all circumstances is through the establishment of a package of irrevocable trusts, and particularly if you have an asset like these currencies that you're anticipating a substantial increase in value. And we at Trusts Unlimited will do everything we can to help you accomplish your personal and financial objectives both pre- and post-RV as we understand them. Now, I'm going to go to the Q&A in just a moment. Before I do, I suggest you have a paper and pencil ready if you're a newer caller, because I'm going to give you our contact information. You might be interested in getting one of our initial packages. You are under absolutely no obligation by receiving this package. This package has a lot of information about us, about the revaluation, and about trusts. It includes everything you need if you should decide that you want to proceed and establish a trust package. But again, you're under absolutely no obligation. You can review the package, contact us if you have any questions. We'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. There will be no consultation fee. Again, we're doing everything we can to provide you the base information you need in order to make an informed decision for all of the reasons that I've stated here. I'm about to open the Q&A. what I do, we have two quick rules. Number one, we do not take service calls on the Q&A. We reserve this for individuals that have questions about the currencies and our services. And the second rule, for obvious reasons, your name and number must be on the screen to participate in the Q&A. So I'm going to go ahead and open the Q&A now. While I'm waiting for any potential questions, I'd like to give our newer callers our contact information. You can go to our website, which is Trusts with an S, UnlimitedLLC.com. Our email address is Trusts with an S, UnlimitedLLC@gmail.com. Our phone service is 307-274-4122. If you'd like to listen to a recent conference call playback, or if you'd be kind enough to refer us to someone that might be interested in our services, you can either go to YouTube and then go to Trusts Unlimited, or you can go to IQD calls and go to Trusts Unlimited, or you can simply dial the same number that you dialed for this live call this afternoon, with the exception of the last two digits. Rather than dialing 40, you'll dial 39 and then use the same access code, which is 739-394#. This call should be available tomorrow, 1 p.m. If you'd like to be included on our email list, you can go to our website, go to the bottom, enter your name and email address where indicated. You should be on our email list within 24 hours. Bear in mind that we only send emails out periodically pre-RV, but post-RV emails may go out certainly on a weekly basis and perhaps even on a daily basis. So let's go to the Q&A here. Our first caller is from area code 405. That's 405. Go ahead.
Good morning, Jim. This is Tom in Oklahoma.
Yes, sir.
Well, I somehow feel like the silly idiot here, but the question I have is my brother and I both have our own trust, and we have both committed our foreign currencies to the trust. And we've also, since we have different currencies, would like to share half of each, and I was wondering how we would be able to do this. Would it be as simple as just retrieving it and handing it over, and
if you each have your own trust, that means you each have your own assignment form to the trust. What I would suggest, based on what you're telling me, is you sit down together at a table, calculate exactly how much of each currency you have, make sure you have gifted one another outside of the trust gift letters so that you each have the same amount of currency, and then each of you assign that currency to your respective trust. In other words, just split it up, make sure that you have gift letters that show you each have the same amount of the currencies, and then make sure that that is reflected in your assignment forms to each of your own trusts.
Well, we were planning on waiting until it revalued, and
any gifting you want to do, you need to do before it revalues, because you're running into a federal gift tax if you don't. So let's say you have 10 million dinar and you have 10 million dong total. All right. You make sure that each of you have 5 million of each, and if necessary, gift letters. In other words, if you have all the dinar and he has all the dong, you're going to gift him half the dinar. He's going to gift you half the dong in a gift letter outside of the trust. Then you will each fill out your assignment form to the trust reflecting your 50% of each currency.
Okay.
Tom, I suggest you send me an email reiterating the question, and I'll respond to you in writing.
All right, I can do that.
Too. Yeah, because I don't want to get in too much detail on this call about your personal situation, but if you send us an email and say, look, we have a total amount of the following currencies, what do you suggest? And then I'll respond that way.
All right, sounds good.
Okay? Yes, sir. Take care, Tom.
You too.
Bye-bye. Okay, our next caller is area code 603. That's 603. Go ahead.
Hey, Jim, it's Don in New Hampshire. How you doing?
Okay, I don't recognize that number.
Well, I haven't talked to you for a while. I'm on every week, but I haven't talked to you in a few weeks. So
that's okay, my friend. That's right. You haven't spoken to me for a while. Where you been?
Yeah, it's been a few weeks. I don't always have a chance to call in. Okay, I have two technical questions about the actual exchange process. Okay.
All right.
When all this happens, and we could go to the bank. Obviously, we go with our trust information and so forth. Now, do we exchange it all and put it all into an account held by the trust? That's number one.
Okay. All right. First of all, when the reinstitution occurs and the revaluation, we will have two issues to consider. First, is it a low initial float rate, which we expect it to rise, and did it come at the beginning or the end of a quarter? I need the answers to those questions to tell you specifically what we might suggest. However, we are not going to be involved in the individual negotiations. We can give you some direction. The way I like to advise people when we get into these areas is to just tell them what I would do, not tell them what they should do, but what I would do if I was in their situation, and they can make that decision. Now, one of the documents that we send out with all of our trust packages is a document called Exchange Protocol if you have a trust, and it walks through the steps of what you want to take to the bank, what you want to present to the bank, what you want to say to them. But again, we need the actual revaluation to occur and when it occurs in a quarter before we can make suggestions. And if the reinstitution happened today, we would be scheduling an emergency conference call and we'd walk through this. But what we might suggest would be different if the revaluation were to happen, say, March 26th. So that's the best answer I can give you for today.
Okay, so let me be optimistic. Let's say it happens at a good time, and we have plenty of time within the quarter. And now we have to look at the schedule for the seminar in Orlando. So
right.
Let's say that we have a couple $1 million U.S. after the exchange. So we do our exchange, and we got that money sitting in the bank. Do we just sit on it for the 30 days until we get to the seminar? Because the bank is going to want to do investments for us and stuff like that.
Right. Well, the bank can't do anything without your knowledge and consent. What you want to make sure is that the bank doesn't put a 20 or 30-day hold on the money, which they might try to slip by on you. Now, they're going to try to seduce you with supposedly a little better rate or reductions in exchange fees if you leave the money in their bank or you put it in one of their CDs, or they grab you by the scruff of the neck and drag you over to their asset management department. But again, we'll address all of those. Now, the heads up we're going to have is once the currency reinstitutes in country, the dinar, that's not the revaluation. So that gives us time to get back with everybody and discuss our strategy and the things you're going to be dealing with long before there's an actual revaluation and it's time to go to the bank.
Okay, and the last question, when we do go to the bank, I guess it's going to depend on how much U.S. dollar we end up with as to how much negotiating power we have for rate, for any fees, and I've heard about 2%. Maybe they'll eliminate that if you have enough, and you're going to leave a certain amount in the bank and things like that. So
Well, I always try to refer it. Let's say you want to buy a car, all right, and you're not really sold on necessarily. There may be 3 or 4 models you like. That's the analysis. Let's say there's 4 banks where you can do your exchange. What I'm going to try to do is once the reinstitution occurs, not the revaluation, the reinstitution, is call some of the larger banks, explain that the reinstitution occurred, ask if they believe they're going to be involved in the exchange once there's a revaluation. If they say yes, I'm going to say, my name is Jim George. I'm with Trusts Unlimited. We have a substantial number of clients that hold currencies. I'm not going to nickel and dime you. I basically want to know what the best deal you can give us in terms of an attractive rate and reductions in exchange costs. And I'm going to treat it the way I would buy a car. I might buy a Ford. I might be a Chevy. I might buy a Chrysler. But I'm going to call them up, and I'm just going to say, give me your best deal. All right? So We'll have something to work with. Okay?
It's going to be a Tesla. It's going to be a Tesla Roadster, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I want. That's exactly what I want. That's funny you said that, because I even have a picture of a Roadster here in my office. I just love the car. But
really,
Yeah. There's a couple cars I like. I said to my wife, the only extravagance I want a garage. I can put 10 cars in it and hire a full-time mechanic to keep them in tip-top shape. So she rolls her eyes, but
And then we'll have to call you. Then we'll have to call you Jay Leno Jr. That's all.
What something? Yeah. Well, I'll never be in his league, I don't think. But I used to have a 1959 Corvette, which I sold for $3,500, and it was original, perfect condition. That same car is selling for $85,000 a day. So
I know. I had a '63. I had a '63 split window, all black, all original.
Oh my!
And I'd sold it about 8 years ago. I should have kept it, but we had other interests at the time, so.
Well, it may interest you to know that our attorney, Robert Bly, is a car enthusiast too, and he's involved nationally with Thunderbird, and he has the classic '56 with the hard top with the little round window, and he's got a couple of cars that are he loves his cars. I went to his house, and all his regular driving cars are on the street, and all his collection cars are in his garages.
No, it's supposed to be that way. Okay, anyway, so we just need to wait until things progress here and then get some guidance.
I don't want to be a guru and act like I'm the Oracle of Delphi. I don't know. I know when it happens and what the rate is, then we know what we can advise you. But since we don't know the answers to those questions, I'd be shooting in the dark.
I gotcha. Because there's all kinds of stuff out there about humanitarian projects and this and that and different rates for this and that. And who the hell knows what's really going to happen, And if you're involved in a legitimate humanitarian project, are they going to give you a higher rate and someone has to be set aside? And that's crazy stuff.
But I could be wrong, but I think that's all 100% crap. I could be wrong, but I've been doing this for a long time. I've been, I've seen it all. And I just don't. I don't think any of that's good. I could be wrong, but my intention is to negotiate the best rate I can, get my money, get it out of the banks, get it into the markets where I've experienced and I know what I'm doing, and I'm not going to get involved in any of these other things.
Gotcha. Okay, right. Jim, I'll let you go on to somebody else. Great talking to you again. Talk to you later. Thanks.
Yes, take care, Don. Bye-bye. Okay, our next caller is area code 312. That's got to be Les.
Yes, indeed. Good afternoon, Jim. How are you?
How you doing? Okay. What's up,
I'm all right. I'm all right. Good to hear from Don today.
Yeah, I haven't heard from him for a while. Getting to wonder about him.
Yeah. So I'm a car enthusiast as well, and I agree with you on that 10-car garage with the full-time mechanic.
Right. Yeah.
And I think TT's husband would agree with you as well.
Right.
So,
some guys play golf. I just want to mess with cars.
There you go. Because I don't play golf, so I'm in the car business. But thinking back on what Don was just saying about the let me leave that because I forgot it. I'll go to the one I wrote down. Now, I've been told the U.S. ambassador is in Iran or is in the U.S., and he's ironing out issues about the RV and the currency with Iran being RV'd and reinstituted this go-around. And given the fact that an RV and sanctions doesn't mean your currency drops in value because you have sanctions against you. How would that play out if... Go ahead and respond on that.
Well, are you talking about the Iranian rial revaluing?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Now, the Iranian rial, technically the Iranian rial should not revalue because in order for the IMF to take them out of any program rate, they'd have to be Article 8 compliant with the UN, which requires that they have a stable political. They're politically stable internally, and they're not involved in the affairs of other neighboring countries, which is not true of Iran in either situation. However, I can see a situation where they would at least allow the increase in the value of the Iranian dinar to take some of the pressure off. Unfortunately, the EU does not support the United States sanctions against Iran. They want to do business with Iran. So So I could see the IMF and these characters running the EU and Brussels trying to undercut the United States by assisting Iran. However, by assisting Iran, they would indirectly be assisting Iraq, which is what we want.
Okay, all right. And
I mean, I'm getting selfish here, and I've said at this point, I want to go to the bank, I want to do my exchange, and I want to move on down the road. I'm done with all this.
Yeah, I agree. I want to exchange as well and be done with it because of the back and forth and all of the other crap. But wasn't it November of last year when Trump initiated or reinstituted the sanctions on Iran?
Well, no, he had sanctions earlier than that, but November 4th, I believe you're right about the date, is when he really stepped it up. And one of the parameters of it was that he gave the EU nations an ultimatum. If you deal with Iran with $400 billion annual economy, you can no longer deal with the United States with a $19 trillion annual economy. So that's one of the reasons, if there's a love-hate with Europe. They want Trump's support. They know what he's doing economically is correct, but they just can't help themselves because they don't like style. But so that's why they are in a backdoor way saying to Iraq, you know what, if you're going to do the auctions, why don't you just use the euro instead of the U.S. dollar? And that's, because the euro is a functioning global currency, and the Iranians will accept the euro. So, like I said, it's a bad soap opera. That's why I just want the damn thing done so we can just move on down the road.
Yeah, because they still have, or at least the articles are saying, that Iran still has 3 banks that are connected to the banking internet. I'll call it the banking internet because I don't know what the line is called that they use their transfers are called. But if they still got 3 banks connected,
Iran,
still in the system.
Different. Yeah, Iran. Iran is desperate simply because their economy is in the tank, and we had a good chance about 8 years ago to get rid of them, but Obama, of course, didn't. He backed off when he had a chance to assist the Iranian people, and then he resuscitates them by dropping $150 billion in their hand and $1.7 million in cash that went to Switzerland, supposedly under the table, that we found out about. We still haven't seen all of the side agreements there, so it's unfortunate. The 2 people that were that obstructed the revaluation of the dinar back in 2012 were Maliki and Obama. It's really, like I said, it's a bad soap opera, and it's all these little backdoor incestuous relationships, and that's why I just wish pox on all their houses. Just revalue the damn thing, let us go to the bank, and then sort out your problem.
Yeah, but that money Obama gave back was their money. It was already their money that was just...
Yeah, but it was frozen because they're the world's state sponsor of terror, and they took away their piggy bank. I mean, why would you give a nation that says death to America $150 billion? That says death to Israel. They're 12 bombers. I mean, it's the same rocket science.
Yeah.
So
all right.
But the other issue was Obama was not bullish on the reemergence of Iraq for personal political reasons anyway. So, it's like I said, it's just a bad deal all the way around.
Cool. Say hi to the professor, and thanks again for taking my call.
Yes, sir. Take care. All right. Our next caller is area code 404. That's 404. Go ahead.
Hey, Jim George. How you doing?
Yes, I'm fine. Who is this?
This is Ron.
Yes, sir.
A long time ago. Hey, but real quick, I got about 2 or 3 quick questions. They might be a little tough, but you always handle. I like the way you speak. The first one is, doesn't it seem, or to my recollection, to my understanding, is that it seems like the country will go broke if they revalued at a high rate. Where would they get all of this money from to give us back in, United States currency?
If they come back at a high rate, that means that for each of their dinar, they get more money. They get more dollars. They're better off getting $3 for one dinar than $1 for the dinar. Basically, what's going to happen is, I don't want to get too technical about it. It's called qualitative easing. You're basically creating wealth, to be very simplistic about it. So what happens is the United States Treasury comes to us. They purchase our currency from us, the dinar. They then record that. They pay us for our dinar. Let's say they give us $3 for our dinar. Okay, we got $3 US. We're good to go. We're done. We're out of it. The U.S. now has our dinar, which they register digitally, destroy, and then they utilize that currency, the registered currency, to purchase oil from Iraq at $32 a barrel, which we can turn around and they can double their money overnight by selling it for what it's worth on the street, or they can do the deal they did with China where they take that barrel of oil they purchased for $32, sell it to China for $36, and China pays us in gold the money we need to back our new currency. So the United States is going to, one way or the other, either double their money overnight, or they're going to increase our gold reserves so that our new currency is Basel III compliant. So, everyone wins. That's the way that works.
Okay, so that if Trump's holding some and the Bush is holding some, so that means that they benefit, and so they are pushing the buttons, right? Trump is pushing the buttons.
Well, the Treasury Department, we're told, has 4 trillion dinar. The largest holder outside of the Central Bank of Iraq is the U.S. Treasury, holding 4 trillion dinar. So 4 trillion dinar at $3 is what? 12 trillion dinar. Theoretically, they could wipe out half of our deficit with it if they wanted to. People, I was talking about the Kuwaiti dinar, but the United States had a lot of Kuwaiti dinar, and the one year when people couldn't figure out how Clinton was able to balance the budget that first year, he did it with the exchange of the Kuwaiti dinar.
Wow. Okay. All right, so hopefully it happens again. All right, another question on these gurus, all right? You don't like them, I don't like them, most of us don't like them. What are they benefiting? The viewership by making these statements? It could happen and not could happen, all of that stuff?
Some of them are selling trusts. Some of them are selling the information. So sort of like Facebook. Facebook is free, but the reason it's free is because they sell that information and make it available. Go on Facebook or one of these sites and Google, lawn furniture or something like that, and then what happens? All you see on your site for the next 3 months is ads for lawn furniture. They're selling the information. So that's basically what's going on there.
Another quickie, can you explain real quick the auction process? If they're auctioning off these dollars as if it's nothing and nobody's not doing anything to stop it, the corruption with the officials, with the auctions over there.
Well, remember, again, the majority of people, the overwhelming majority of Iraqis are Shia, and the Iranians are Shia. Many of the officials in government in Iraq are Shia, and Maliki and his bunch, many of them are still in government, and they've been playing games with the dinar. They've been auctioning it off. Remember, there was a spread between the auction rate and the in-country rate, so they were making a profit there. A lot of them have smuggled the currency out of the country in anticipation of a revaluation so that they can get not the in-country rate without the 3 zeros, but the global exchange rate where they're recognizing the 3 zeros, and the Iranians are involved in it too. Now, the only reason Maliki even survived as long as he did was because of the influence of Iran. Now, Iran's influence has dwindled in Iraq, but back in 2012, Iran was very much involved in the internal affairs of Iraq. The Revolutionary Guard were there. One of the reasons that Maliki sort of allowed the ISIS thing to fester was his excuse was he needed the Iranian Revolutionary Guard to help fight ISIS. But what the Revolutionary Guard really did was protect him. So, like I keep saying, it's just a bad soap opera.
Right.
And we're dealing with a tribal culture. We're dealing with sectarianism.
Right.
And and the Eastern culture is just different. I've said this many times. In the United States, a drop-dead date is a drop-dead date. In the Eastern mind, it's a very Byzantine approach, is the drop-dead date is time to renegotiate. I mean, and that's what's going on now. The CBI has tried twice at least to reinstitute their currency this year, and the United States this time stepped on it because of Iran. They're concerned. They do not want Iran to get their hands on massive amounts of wealth, which they know they're going to use for the wrong reason. So because Iran is a bad player, we are being affected.
And you mentioned the NSA a couple of weeks ago too, right?
Yeah, well, the NSA is the one that stepped on it and said that because of Iran's influence in Iraq, it's dangerous at this point to reinstitute the currency. Iraq needs to show that they have separated themselves entirely from Iran, and they're not going to circumvent our sanctions by utilizing the U.S. dollar. Now, ironically, the reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar, the Iranians could then use that and exchange it for some other currency once it reinstitutes. So, it's like I said, it's a bad situation. I don't know how it's going to play out, but the United States is probably going to have to allow the reinstitution of the currency because Iraq has done everything they've been asked to do.
Right. Okay, last quickie. Explain the process of the reinstatement happens on one date, so the RV could happen within a week or two, a month down the road?
RV could happen in 10 days. It could take 30 days. The reinstitution is merely the country's declaration that the official currency that's being utilized is their currency for the exchange of goods and services and not the reserve currencies. Now, in order for that to happen, the reinstatement, they're using primarily the U.S. dollar. So obviously the reinstatement of the currency, it has to be at least a 1-to-1 with the U.S. dollar in order to match the purchasing power, in order for people to stop using the U.S. dollar and use their own currency. Once that's been established, then the IMF can take them out of the program rate and declare an international rate basically against all other currencies.
Well, I just don't know. So are those people poor over there? I mean, real poor?
Yeah, they're poor. Well, in terms per square mile, Iraq may be the richest country in the world, but because it's got an arcane, centralized government, it does not have a private sector. That's the other issue. That one of the things that's the standby agreement that they have with the World Bank is that they're going to have to decentralize. They're going to have to grow their free market economy. They're going to have to reduce, 85% of the people there work for the government. Well, it's got to be the other way around. Only 15% for the government. So in order for all of that to happen, though, they're going to need to have their own currency. So, it's like a catch-22. But Iraq's done everything it can do at this point. Again, the sticking block, in my opinion, the sticking block is Iran. That's the problem. Because Iraq is their number one customer, and they have almost no revenue if they're not dealing with Iraq because of the sanctions. And they need the revenue in order to the mullahs to stay in power. So it's sort of a struggle. I mean, I guess you could reduce it down to a struggle between the mullahs of Iran and the NSA in the United States.
Wow. Hey, great job, man. Thanks for taking my call, man. Great. I listen to you every week. It's only a matter of time before I get a trust, man. But I'm going to get it done. Shame on me, dude. I'm going to get it done.
Well, we got that deferred payment arrangement. Just send us an email. Tell us you want a package, or call us, and we'll send a package. There's a lot of information in there for you to look at, and you're not under any obligation by getting the package.
Okay, I'll do that today. I want to look that package over. That's $500 up front and then $100 a month. You really can't beat that.
I got your phone number here. As a matter of fact, I'll call you after this call just to get your email, and I'll just fire you the package.
You the best, Jim. Thank you, man.
Yes, sir. Take care.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye. All right, our next caller is area code 845. That's 845. Go ahead. 845, are you there?
Sorry, Jim, I had you on mute. Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, I can.
Sorry
David?
about that. This is Brian from New York. I had a procedural question related to the asset management trust. And basically, if I go to my closing that is set up and I have my asset management trust through your program. As I understand it, it's irrevocable. So I am the beneficiary, and I have a separate trustee who is in charge of the trust. Ideally, at the closing, I would come and my trustee would come with me. I guess my question is, if for some reason my trustee is not available to join me at the closing, am I still able to close and effectuate the exchange and have the assets and accounts set up in the name of the trust without my trustee at the closing? That's really my question.
Your trustee would have to be with you because the trustee has to accept the asset into the trust. And when they set up the bank account, it'll be, I'm just making this up, it'll be the Bryan's Family Asset Management Trust, Joe Smith trustee, Bryan beneficiary. So they need to be there in order to set the account up. Now, after that, once you make an arrangement with your trustee about withdrawals and how you do and all of that, he wouldn't have to be present. But when you initiate the account and when you initiate the exchange, the trustee would need to be there. Now, we suggest you have two trustees and a protector, and we would explain in detail at our post-RV seminar what their functions are. But the reason we don't name a second trustee and a protector pre-RV is because the bank would require that they be present at the exchange also. So pre-RV, we're just naming one trustee. You're not utilizing the trust. It serves no purpose pre-RV, and this way you only need to bring one other person with you at the exchange.
Okay, that makes sense. So I'm hearing you say for sure the trustee would need to be at the closing if I'm using this trust. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Great. Thank you very much for that, Jim. I appreciate it. You guys do great work. Thank you.
Have we sent you our package?
Yes, we have, and we have it. It's all good. So, yep,
okay.
All set.
Okay, well, thanks very much for your call.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye. Well, Bryan was our last caller for this afternoon. Again, I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to the call. I hope that those of you calling in for the first time and are interested in what we've had to say will contact us. We'll be happy to send you our initial package. Again, you're under absolutely no obligation whatsoever, even though the package does include everything you need. If you should decide to proceed, that choice is entirely yours. You can contact us if you have any questions. We'll be happy to answer those questions. There will be no consultation fee. Our next call is scheduled next Wednesday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Certainly something of a dramatic nature were to happen between now and then, we'll try to get out an emergency email and schedule an emergency conference call. But failing that, we will be back next Wednesday afternoon, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Thanks again and have a great week. Bye-bye.